This full moon is bringing endings, new beginnings, and revelations. In this episode, we are diving into what you need to know to navigate the Uranian shakeups of this moon and how to resource yourself and support your voice and your body during this process and during this huge chapter that we are all in collectively of shifting timelines. I'm Vanessa Rodriguez, Akashic channel, intuitive guide, and clinically trained healer who is here to support you in your soul path in awakening your intuitive healing gifts and to help you bring forth your medicine that only you can bring to the world. This is our moon musing on our Feed Your Wild podcast. If you're not watching on my YouTube channel, Wildly Rooted Spirit, I recommend you hop over because today, not only am I going to share important insights about this lunation and our usual medical astrology and herbal allies, but I'm also doing oracle card readings for each sign. So if you want to take a look at the image of the oracle card that I am holding, I recommend you go over to YouTube. Wildly Rooted Spirit is my channel so that you can take in all the beautiful imagery for your unique sign when we get there. For the individual sign readings, I am using an oracle deck as well as opening up the Akashic records and channeling in the message that is available for you. So be sure to look for your rising and or your sun sign. Just a super quick announcement before we get started and dive in. I just opened up spots for my private Akashic one-on-one mentorship. That it's a high-level, high-touch mentorship for healers called Oracle Mastery. This is where you get to tap into your intuitive gifts, you master the Akashic records, and you step into the version of your oracle self that you know you are here to embody, to be in service to others, and to amplify your spiritual gifts. If you're interested in learning more, you can click the link in the show notes or go to wildlyrooted.com/oracle to learn more and apply. I also just opened up several spots for my clarity channeling sessions, which are a great way to get a taste of a session with me before committing to the full mentorship. And if you do choose to do a clarity channeling session and then would like to step into mentorship, you can apply the full amount that you paid for your clarity channeling session toward the mentorship. All links are in the show notes. We are talking about this Taurus full supermoon at 13 degrees of Taurus. And of course, with every full moon, that means that the sun and the moon are opposite one another. So the sun is currently at 13 degrees of Scorpio. The ruler of this full moon is going to be Venus, of course. And Venus is currently in late Libra. And she's forming a T-square with Pluto and Jupiter. So we're going to talk about that in just a moment. But before we do, let's touch in on what has been happening prior to this and like the setting of the stage for this particular lunation. We had Mars, who was previously in his home sign of Scorpio and with Scorpio season moving through, and just yesterday, at the time of this publication, November 4th, Mars enters Sagittarius. So this is really shifting this energy from that internalized scorpionic drive and perception to an outward expression with conviction and faith-led action. Sagittarius is very much about the truth-seeking, expansion of horizon, of movement and travel, and really of faith, belief systems, religion. So we have that vibe change. And this full moon, fortunately, is happening free of that Mars opposition, because previously we've experienced an opposition with Mars and doesn't feel so great. There is that tension. So this does feel like a little bit of easing of that tension. We also have Uranus that is going to retrograde back into Taurus. So that's happening on November 8th. And Uranus is going to go back to the very last degree, 29th degree, 59 minutes of Taurus on that day. And returning to Taurus's final degree, I mean, that means that this is part of this larger story, right? With this Taurus full moon, this is reactivating change around things having to do with earth and the mundane, resources, finances, the body, land, agriculture, food. So Uranus is going to play a role in this overall story, and you'll see with the general card that I pulled for this lunation, as well as it applies for all of us, that Uranus is definitely playing a large role in this ongoing story. Now, we also have Neptune at the 29th degree of Pisces. Again, that's the anaretic degree. This is the end of a 165-year cycle, Pisces being the final sign, the last sign of the zodiacal wheel, if we start with Aries. And this is really symbolizing this sort of spiritual culmination point, especially with this lunation. And Pisces is very much connected with compassion, with spirituality, with union, oneness, and that Neptunian vibe connected with Pisces coming in and adding, enhancing. So it's like what are we learning? What have we learned from this full cycle through the sign of Pisces, and not just Pisces, but through the entire zodiacal wheel? And the lessons, the gifts, the opportunities that are available to us with this Neptune at the final degrees. So it does feel like a culmination point. There can be maybe some confusion because Neptune and Pisces both, there can be sort of this like nebulous dissolution kind of energy where we don't have the structure or the boundaries that can very often help assist us in seeing, but sometimes the dissolution of those allows us to go even deeper. And also the dissolution of potential illusions that you've been holding onto. And I feel that Saturn, who's also hanging out near Neptune there, is helping out with that, of bringing more of that structure, that reorganization and structuring and creating boundaries, and perhaps bringing an element of discipline when it comes to that spiritual energy. So as we're already tuning into, this lunation is coming with a bunch of planets that are at threshold degrees, at the either very last degrees of a sign or the very early degrees of a sign. So I mentioned Uranus at 29 degrees of Taurus, Neptune at 29 degrees of Pisces, Pluto, who's at 1 degree of Aquarius, hanging out there for a while. Mars is at 0 degrees of Sagittarius. And then we have Venus, the ruler of this lunation, at 28 degrees of Libra. So together, they're creating this sort of, you could see it as a cosmic turning point or a closing of cycles, because these new frequencies are emerging. And we have this theme of chapters closing and new chapters beginning, or new books beginning. I kind of feel like this is a gear that is shifting. One of the many gears that we are seeing in this greater cosmovision and this reality. And they're all connected with one another. And as one shifts, it shifts the others. And so I'm feeling this really as like, even if you look at the wheel of these shifts in themes, in energies, in focus. So with this particular one, we can expect illumination, because full moons bring light to something, a culmination point, illumination point. You can expect illumination of truths that arise. Maybe they have been hidden from your own conscious awareness, or maybe from yourself, maybe hidden like as a family secret, or something that has not fully come to light just yet. This can have to do with Taurian themes of something that is more of this world. So having to do with the resources, financial stuff, relationships. This could be ecological, so having to do with the earth, and of course also spiritual, with so much of that Piscean energy that has been playing out. So with this, we are probably going to see some collective and personal revelations arising in this time. And this could also be in areas where maybe we have been in denial or maybe avoidance of it. But, it's like one of those things where we can no longer ignore. It's in our face. So Taurus rules resources. Taurus rules money. Taurus rules the body. Taurus rules nature. But Scorpio and Scorpio season rules hidden power and shared wealth. Scorpio rules the transformative phoenix energy that we all have access to. So with that, this full moon and its light is most likely going to expose certain things, because Scorpio, like highlighting what it has been in the occulted, what has been occulted, which means like what has been in the unseen and coming forth. Volatility in financial systems and markets, we'll probably see that happening, especially with Uranus getting back into Taurus, maybe some ups and downs with currencies and commodities. We could probably see some news of Earth's natural resources, maybe misuse of it, maybe highlighting of exploitation, things like that, maybe innovations having to do with that. Also, in terms of our personal relationships, we might see our own personal relationship to comfort and material safety and living responsibly here on Earth. Like, there's going to be a light shone on that. When we look at it from the perspective of decans and where the sun and moon are hanging out, we have the sun, the Scorpio sun, in the second decan of Scorpio. This particular decan is very much connected with this sense of desire to merge, to pour yourself into something or someone else, and that sort of entanglement or enmeshment even. The moon is in the second decan of Taurus, and this energy is more about rhythm, communication, right pacing, finding balance, especially having to do with the material realm and creative aspects of life. These decans feel pretty disparate, right? They feel like there's a polarity between them. One feels like could be healthy devotion, and the other could be maybe codependency or over-attachment. There's also sensuality that we feel through Taurus and that decan versus a sense of control or wanting to merge through that sensuality with that decan in Scorpio. So I'm feeling like part of the vibe and the lesson here is to slow down enough that you can tune into your own rhythm. Yes, root into comfort, but not as a coping mechanism that doesn't actually get you somewhere. Now, by all means, coping mechanisms can be very helpful to support your nervous system in that particular moment. But you want to take care not to get too rooted down into your comfort zone, because again, we have Uranus playing a role here that is the planet of shock and awe and change and revelation and things that are unexpected. So understanding that, yes, support yourself by bringing those elements of comfort that are going to help to support your nervous system, but not to place too much dependency on those. Also, cultivating body wisdom, really tuning into your body, making sure you're talking to your body or listening to your body and what your body is asking for, and then following up and actually paying attention and giving your body what it is that it needs. Now, the moon in Taurus is an exaltation, meaning there's a lot of power with this moon because the moon exalted in Taurus is raised up. Right. It's the reputation It's like sitting in your high chair, your throne, in your queendom, kingdom. So that moon exaltation in Taurus can offer resources from that place and a sense of like comfort and grounding from that. But full moons do bring culmination and illumination of something, especially with opposite that Scorpio energy, potentially something unexpected with that Uranian energy as well. So we might expect some emotional tides and potential instability. It doesn't mean that that's bad, but there is something around taking care of your nervous system so that if there is potential instability around your sense of safety, pleasure, or resources, then you are internally resourced enough to be able to ride those waves. Some good news with all of this is the trine that is happening from Jupiter. So Jupiter in Cancer at 25 degrees is trining the sun in Scorpio and sextiling this moon in Taurus. So this feels like, in Jupiter exalted in Cancer, feels very supportive, nourishing. There's sort of like a softening of the potential intensity with this. There feels like this protective influence. Jupiter can have that protective energy, especially in Cancer. And in Cancer can contribute, we'll say, resources as it pertains to your emotions and emotional growth, and also possibilities for repair, even fertility. Jupiter is one of our, fertility signifiers, if you will. Fertility for, yes, actual, like literal fertility of having a baby, but also fertility of creativity of any kind, of creation of some kind. And Jupiter in Cancer, there's, yes, this protective force of one's emotions and of one's family and what you care for, but also there's an encouragement of forgiveness, of empathy, and truly reconnecting with people that feel like home and what feeds your heart. We have Mercury conjunct Mars in Sagittarius, which is indirect, but it's still relevant here. The sun is ruled by Mars. So the sun in Scorpio being ruled by Mars. So looking at who is conjunct the ruler of the sun is relevant and important. When we have Mercury and Mars together, which we have been journeying with, things to watch out for with this are sharp words, sort of that like spiking with the tongue, very direct speech, potentially reactive communication. And those themes are going to still play out with this full moon. So be gentle with yourself, be gentle and compassionate with others if you can, and don't take things personally because I've already seen it in some circles and I've seen it within myself, and just how, the way that we can explain is like the archons, these energies and these cosmic forces taking hold of us, and those energies flowing through us, and that we are these vessels and instruments of these energies. And so, yeah, we might react with that fire and be quick to like tear something down or, just have a more fiery reaction with that Mars Mercury conjunction and those two traveling together. So just pay attention to that impulse, because you can always pause, take a breath, return to it later, right? But once you let it out, you can't retract it. It's too late. Retrograde Mercury later is going to revisit some of these conversations that are happening under this lunation. So that might be an opportunity for you to kind of take a look at what has been said if you felt like it was totally out of your control, and integrate and sit with it then. As I mentioned, Venus, the ruler of this lunation, is still in Libra, And while she is in her home, one of her home signs, Libra, and that feels very delicious, she can't technically see the moon. She can't see where the moon is sitting in Taurus. So while there is this sense of harmony and comfort in her own home, it may feel like it's not fully accessible. It's kind of like this feeling that I know I have, and when I talk to a lot of my healers and intuitives, when I'm working with them, it's like having this sense that everything will be okay, but it feels a bit distant. It's like your higher self, your angels are holding you. You know they have your back, but you're still in the middle of the shit. Like you're still in this earth realm. And like the tangible support isn't maybe quite there. So you have to really rely on that felt sense and that distant feeling of that comfort in being held, which is still a resource, but it just is not as tangible as and fully accessible. The other thing that I'll say here is similarly, like if we're feeling like we're being guided from afar, we don't have that direct, immediate, tangible connection. The same goes for human to human contact, right? So the emotional tending and clarity that you need or you desire or you're looking for is most likely going to require your self-resourcing, like embodiment and practical care for your body, solitude, taking care of yourself, tuning in, rather than an immediate resolution from others. Along with that, and Venus is forming a T-square with Pluto and Jupiter. So this is both highlighting themes of power here. Pluto with power struggles potentially in the realm of finance, in relationships, in politics. I mean, I feel like we're kind of already seeing that, but also something around a shift in value systems. So rather than this sense of I need to accumulate and hoard, there's more openness to reciprocity and stewardship, a willingness to co-create together, to share resources, and that can actually take you much farther than the more individualistic model of accumulation and outright ownership of something, which is, that is much more aligned with what we see as modern forms of capitalism. I'm really feeling like this, especially with Uranus getting back into Taurus, that there's this up-leveling that is happening as it relates to the Earth. And of course, we are directly connected to the Earth. We are Mother Earth's children. There is a direct connection and correlation with our health and Mother Earth's health. It feels like there's sort of this like upgrade energy or some sort of shifting that is happening with all of this movement, and then Uranus coming back into Taurus. So with that, we might potentially see some increased seismic activity, volcanic activity, that's Uranus, so like earthquakes and, volcanoes. With Neptune at that final degree too, we'll probably see more themes connected to waters, flooding, storms, big Neptune energy. One thing that I am witnessing as someone who supports a bunch of intuitives and healers is heightened psychic activity and spiritual awareness. So all of your clairs, the heightened clairvoyance, clairaudience, intuition, a lot of dream activity, especially for my dream psychics. If you haven't tuned into my recent episode on the 8th and 12th houses, the liminal houses, highly recommend you do, because you most likely have a placement there, or at least if you don't, there will be some insights and illumination around those parts of your chart. So collective psychic increased awareness is happening. And I see this even with people that don't identify as spiritual or intuitive or healers. Like I see it with people in my family systems. And I honestly feel like this is the trajectory of humans anyway. Like this is where we came from. We all used to be telepathic to begin with. And we're kind of coming back to that. We're in this collective process of remembering, and there are just some of us that I feel like are a little bit at the forefront of that. And if you're tuning into this, you're most likely one of them, where those heightened abilities are only going to amplify and increase. So with that, there can be increased energetic sensitivity. And one thing that I see for people who are not fully resourced or don't really understand what's going on is that it can feel really disorienting. And some people can experience this somatically as pain or as shifts in their bodies that are not comfortable. So that's one thing that, again, I'm always an advocate for supporting your nervous system, because your nervous system is a bridge between all of your bodies, the unseen and the seen and the tangible and the measurable. So if you feel like you're having these, we'll say, psychic and spiritual upgrade or enhancement side effects, you want to make sure you're doing all the basics to take care of yourself. You're sleeping well, you're drinking really good quality water. You're also connecting in with solar light as naturally as possible, reducing the amount of non-native EMFs, Wi-Fi, phone usage, or blue light when it's like not really timed in the evening or at night before bed. So just like simple things to take care of yourself. Of course, anything related to mitigating, managing, and alleviating stress is going to be super important. And working with your plant allies, all of the nervines that I talk about almost every episode, bring those babies in and help you through these really interesting times. This full moon within this context really feels like it's acting like a spiritual amplifier. Now, some of the most intuitive people I know, the students and the members in my community and those that I have worked with and supported, have Taurus placements, especially Taurus moon. And many of them are mediums. They have mediumship gifts. So I feel this Taurus full moon absolutely playing a role in that and bridging human consciousness with higher dimensions and the unseen. So that's something to be aware of as well. And if you have any of these placements, I would love to hear, comment below if you're over and watching this on YouTube. I'd love to make this a part of the conversation, and I'm always interested in hearing your own experience. Let's now move into the medical astrology and herbal astro portion here, and then we'll get into each sign and the specific card that I'm pulling for you. Now, Taurus. Taurus is an earth sign and a fixed sign, so we have that energy with this. And the tissue states, as it relates to the energetic system of traditional Western herbalism, is cold depression. So what does that mean? It means that there is not a lot of warmth. If you think even earth and clay is cold, is fixed, is solid. So that kind of energy related to the tissues, which is not something that we want to have long term, because warmth and fire drives movement. It drives the fluid and the blood life force and everything that we need that comes with movement, the distribution of all of the nutrients throughout our bodies. It requires warmth and movement. So we want our tissue state to be on the warmer side, not too hot, but not too cold. And if it's too cold for too long, then that's when we see a depressed state. We see a state of also potentially stagnancy from that depression. So we want to bring things in that vitalize, revitalize, and awaken. The body systems in connection with Taurus are the throat, the thyroid, the neck, everything in this region, which is probably why I chose to wear a turtleneck, interestingly, on a subconscious level. The vocal cords, the voice in general, and the middle ear, like that clairaudient and ability to hear, is also connected in with Taurus. We also see Taurus related with the metabolic system and the salivary glands, all the taste, everything related to taste and eating, the teeth of the lower jaw. We also see the base of the skull in connection with Taurus. What are some of the imbalances that we see typically in these areas? Sore throats, of course, thyroid conditions. This can be hypothyroid, especially. That's typically what I see with Taurus issues. But it can be hyperthyroidism, overindulgence also with like eating. Tonsillitis is another one, issues with the tonsils. The tonsils are also connected with Taurus. Anything having to do with the vocal cords, vocal fry, issues with the vocal cords, losing your voice. Also, the formation of tumors or growths in this area, especially with the thyroid. And we can see in connection with the hearing, some hearing loss or inner ear infections. We can also see excess mucus and in the upper respiratory system having to do with that voice. And also slow digestion and excess weight when it comes to the metabolism and weak metabolism, which is very connected with thyroid issues as well. Now, on the flip side, and with this connection with Scorpio, as above, so below. So very often when we see issues with the throat and the vocal cords, we will also see that at the bottoms of our bodies. So issues with the intestinal tract and a congested colon, very connected with the thyroid and the throat and the voice. Also, when you actually look at the vocal cords and the larynx, it looks like a cervix. And so the cervix and the root and the sacral, very much connected with the throat center and the vocal cords in your voice. What is it that we want to bring in as remedies? Well, of course, we want to bring in some warmth and stimulation, right? So any kind of warming and stimulating activity is going to be really great, with an emphasis on detoxifying. So again, with that Taurus Scorpio axis, there can be accumulation, and especially with the colon, intestinal tract, and with the throat, we want to help assist our body's natural detoxification process. So of course, eating a whole foods diet is going to be really critical for all signs, but for Taurus and Scorpio folk and that axis, it's going to be especially important to be mindful of the quality of the food that you're eating and how you are eating. I see this really important for Taurus people. Some of my favorite guardian herbs and remedy herbs in connection with Taurus are all the beautiful aromatic herbs that are very lovely for sore throats that we know of. Sage, thyme, also rosemary, ginger, of course, are going to be really great. So very aromatic, opening up, stimulating, bringing warmth, and helping to facilitate a clearing of this area. Also being connected with Venus and Taurus being ruled by Venus, rose is another beautiful ally here for the throat. Nettles can be another one that is ruled by Mars, but can, again, bring some of that warmth and opening up. I find nettles so good for so many of the signs in general. Now, if you are overly heated, then nettles can be a bit drying if you're using it a lot. So just pay attention to that and notice those signs in your own body. An Ayurvedic herb that is a lovely remedy herb for Taurus is ashwagandha. And another that I wanted to bring in is called calamus. I wanted to bring in calamus, aka sweet flag, among other names that it is known by. Because when I created a program years ago called Feed Your Wild Voice. And actually, it's still available as a bonus if you join one of my group mentorship programs, which is not open right now, but there is a wait list. But that's one of the bonus programs that I have. It's like a full-blown holistic healing program in connection with your throat and your voice. And so like spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and of course physically, because if you're not familiar with me and my work, I am a certified nutrition specialist in clinical nutrition, and that's what I did for many, many years prior to getting more into like the focus of my work now, which is spiritual work and intuitive healing. So calamus, or sweet flag, is a rhizome and root, or that's the part that we typically would use for medicine, that has been used in Ayurvedic medicine. And in Ayurveda, the Sanskrit name for calamus is vacha, related to the English word voice, meaning invocation or the power of voice, because it acts prominently on the trachea. And if you look at the rhizome, it strongly resembles a trachea. And that's just one of the signatures. When we look at the doctrine of signatures, we can simply look at the different aspects of a plant and see, oh, that very much looks like a part of the body. And usually there is a correlation there and there's an affinity. So that is one way that we have the ability to tune into the medicine that our plant allies have available. In American Native culture, calamus has been used as a remedy for singers. Calamus has been used for rhinitis. So especially if there's like a fogginess in the head or reduced thinking, calamus can really clear the mind. But there's something about a clearing of the throat, especially if there's been a loss of voice, congested sinuses, laryngitis, or even just a hoarse voice from overuse of singing or talking. Calamus has a nickname as the singer's root because it has this ability to numb the vocal cords so that you can carry on. Now, of course, you don't want to overuse your voice and damage and strain your voice, but this can be helpful when you have those bouts of laryngitis or your voice, you're losing your voice, especially if it's not from overuse and it's something that feels a little bit more energetic, or maybe something that you are fighting. In Ayurvedic medicine, it was used to keep the voice going when reciting the Upanishads. Now, that term vacha that I had mentioned before, it also refers to the way that calamus connects the heart to the voice. So this doesn't only support singers and those that are using their voice in a maybe more spiritual tradition, but it also helps people who maybe have some anxiety around speaking, or anxious people in general feel able to speak more freely and openly about things that are on their heart, about things that are on their mind. And calamus came to me earlier inside of Bloom, which is my community for healers. And one of the healers did a reading for the group. We have practice circles where we do intuitive readings and healings for one another and exchanges. And one of the oracle cards that she pulled was calamus, was sweet flag. I felt the relevance of that at that time related to who was in that particular group, but calamus came through really loudly for this particular lunation, especially with that Mars Mercury in Sagittarius that I was talking about before. There is something here around truth-telling and truth-seeking and communication with this Taurus moon. There's lots of other medicinal uses of calamus root with digestive health. It could help with bloating, indigestion, stomach cramps. Calamus root is very similar to ginger in that way. And respiratory benefits. So speaking of that throat in connection with the respiratory system, colds, coughs, clearing of the lungs as an expectorant. It has expectorant properties, and also cognitive enhancement and mental clarity. Calamus root has a history of use as a cognitive enhancer, and also not only to sharpen the mind, but to sharpen the energy and to increase stamina to keep going. Lots of sources speak to working with the rhizome of calamus or sweet flag, traditionally extracted cold at room temperature. So the rhizome in room temperature water in an infusion overnight. About 1 ounce of calamus root to 1 pint of water. Another way that you can work with calamus root is to infuse honey with calamus root. So about 1 cup of raw honey. I recommend local raw honey, and that's another beautiful way to support your throat. So like this theme around using your voice and throat, and 2 tablespoons of dried calamus root. Combine those 2 together in a clean mason jar, seal that jar up tightly, store it in a cool place, and let it infuse for about 2 to 4 weeks, shaking the jar occasionally just to make sure that it's infusing evenly. And then after that infusion period, you can strain out the calamus root and use that, using it like a fine mesh strainer or a cheesecloth. And then you have calamus root infused honey. And you want to keep that, store that in a cool, dark place. You can add that to your teas. You can add that to anything. You could take it even just straight off of the spoon, which is really beautiful if you have like the inkling of any throat issues or losing your voice. All right, so let's get into some fun oracle readings. I am going to go ahead and open up the Akashic records for the collective tuning in. And I'm first going to share the general lunation card for everybody collectively, and then I'm going to go sign by sign. So this works best for your rising sign, if you know your rising sign, and or your sun sign. So the difference between the two is the rising sign is very similar to your persona here, who you are, how you are perceived, the character and role that you are playing on this stage of life or this simulation. Whereas the sun, your sun, is your soul's essence, who you truly are internally. And so that's going to be related when any readings connected in with the sun and your sun are going to be connected more with your overall soul essence and trajectory in this particular life, the mission, the purpose, whereas the ascendant is going to be much more connected to themes that are playing out in your life in this world stage or simulation, however you want to see this reality, this perceived reality. And so on a practical level, the ascendant can be really helpful and very accurate. On a sun solar level, this is very much more connected with your sun, your internal sun and soul self. So we'll be doing readings for each sign. You can tune into that. If you don't want to wait for that part, you can click the links in the show notes that have the different chapters and skip to that part. So let me go ahead and tune in. The first card I'm pulling is the General Lunation card, and the card that came through is Lightning Power. I'm using, by the way, I am using Stephen Farmer's Earth Magic deck. It just seemed very appropriate for this Taurus full moon to focus on an Earth deck. So this is the Earth Magic Oracle deck by Stephen Farmer. And the very first card we get for this General Lunation reading is Lightning Power. And look at this. I mean, how much more Uranian and Neptunian, Piscean can you get with this? Here's Uranus with the lightning. Here's, Neptune and Pisces with all of that oceanic movement, but the power available here. So when I tune into this energy, I mean, even with this card, it can look kind of scary. You see the trees that are being blown and just like the level of strength and power that is wielded by the natural forces. And that there's something about this lunation that is not only going to exhibit this for all of us, sort of like reminders. We're going to see reminders of this, but those are also reflections of the power that we have the capacity to tap into within ourselves as extensions of nature herself. So it's about not being afraid of these larger forces and powers, even though often we can see devastation that can come from, big, what we might call natural disasters or natural events. But there is also this sort of humility and reminder of the power of the earth and how so much change can happen with this, but that this is the vibe. This is the general vibe of this particular lunation. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with Aries first. I'm doing these on the fly, by the way, too. So Aries rising or Aries sun. Dawn, new beginnings. Dawn, new beginnings. So I'm going to tune into the specific message for you with this. This really feels like you've been doing a lot of work within your own being, yourself. And for many of you, I'm feeling like in different areas of your lives, that expression of that inner self-discovery and sort of like that reinvention of the self and how that plays out in a particular area of your life, which is part of this like next chapter energy. So for some of you, that's going to be with your career. With some of you, that's going to be with relationships. With some of you, that's going to be simply your sense of self. Perhaps like new hobbies, new interests, but there's something around, this feels like a reclamation process for you. And it, again, all comes back to the self. This is a new beginning. And with this new beginning, and part of this reclamation process, this remembering process with this new chapter that is burgeoning is going to, I see you being almost like moved by circumstance, by situations, by the world, by the cosmos, like lining you up into the timeline that feels really aligned for you. The path that ultimately feels really aligned for you. So for those of you who've been journeying what seems like an entire lifetime, multiple lifetimes, forever, and feeling a bit like you're not quite sure where you were going all along, it feels like things are going to start to click and feel more clear. It's starting really with this lunation. Okay, so for Taurus, and Taurus, this is happening in your sign. So Taurus rising and or sun. Love, compassion. Love, compassion. So let's tune in for you. Oh, Taurus, I feel like your heart has been broken before, whether it's through relationship, family dynamics. I feel that you have journeyed with a lot of heaviness, perhaps, also like intimacy. There's something very active for you, alive right now with that feels like, I just feel your heart being mended. It feels like it's being mended. And I'm not getting this card in the sense of like the promise of new love in terms of like a romantic, intimate relationship, but more so this, reconnection with this deep divine love within yourself that is better than any other kind of love that ultimately is like the foundation and seeds of every kind of love. So that if you are looking for a romantic partner, if you are looking for, a family to create, if your family of origin, if you're not connected with your family of origin, or there's like been disconnections there, I just feel like love is coming through, but it's really starting with this mending of your heart with deep, deep self-love and communion with divine love first. Really beautiful here. And I love this also with Venus in Libra. It feels like there's a story, there's a continuation of a story that's going to just keep going and going. Okay, let's tune in to Gemini rising and sun. Cave. Sanctuary. Okay, let's tune in. It's interesting because, with the Gemini energy, I very often feel like this more extrovert or outgoing kind of energy, a seeking energy, a very active, mentally stimulating kind of energy, but also with relationship, like talking, chatting, communion. But with Cave Sanctuary, I'm getting that there's this invitation and call for you to enter this cave-like space within the self and to cultivate that there's an importance to cultivate this sanctuary feeling that is within yourself. If you want to experience something that reflects that outside of yourself, to make it more of like an embodied experience, such as creating a nook in your house or space that is just yours, that is your sanctuary, like setting up your room, taking advantage of this Venus Libra, right? Like the beauty and harmony and design of setting up your own sanctuary within your room, a temple space, something that feels really good. Maybe it's even in your car. Maybe it's a place out in nature that you can go to, but it's really important to carve that out, but more as a reflection of this inner sanctum that you are prioritizing and creating for yourself. And this actually feels important because with that, I'm hearing echoes. I'm like within this cave like structure, I'm hearing echoes, and it's like you're reflecting. This could also maybe have to do with like the upcoming Mercury retrograde. I hear echoes of words and thoughts and voices. So there's like a lot of reflection that is happening within this cave-like time for you that feels really necessary before you make some big moves. So I know that you like to move quick usually, but there's something here around take a minute, pause, create that inner sanctum and cave and sanctuary that is also potentially reflected outside of yourself, to fully embody it so that you can hear the wisdom that is already circulating within you and the messages that you're already receiving and the reflection within your own being, so that when the time comes to make that decision, to make that jump, to make that move, you have a lot more clarity and you've already sort of like sat with it and integrated it. So that's what I'm getting for you, Gemini. Cancer rising, Cancer sun. Woo, Cancer, this one flew out. Mountain strength. Taking a look there. Okay, so let's tune in. I love also with this, it's like, okay, yes, there's that mountain, but we have the waters there for Cancer. This is Jupiter in Cancer vibes, by the way. Jupiter exalted in Cancer. Jupiter being that like, expansion, moving beyond, like into higher realms, higher levels of awareness and consciousness, and setting your sights high, truth seeking, and the faith and protection. I feel like mountain energy, very protective, very solid with the waters, right? With the waters at the base. Okay, so let's tune in. There's something here with the amount that you have been holding, Cancer. The amount of not only your own emotional waves, the big feelings, but also that of others, like the emotional labor that you have done your entire freaking life, perhaps on an unconscious level and maybe consciously, and the space holding, the navigating of these waters. I feel like there is something here around tapping into this Jupiter, continuing to, like, Jupiter's going to be there for until like June of next year of 2026, really working with and utilizing this Jupiterian energy of protection, of strength, of standing tall in yourself, of navigating, of not necessarily holding and continuing to do emotional labor for others, right? Like, you're no longer available for that, okay, Cancer? Like, no, because you are meeting people sovereign to sovereign. You doing the emotional labor and holding all of everybody else's waters is actually a disservice to everybody, Like nobody wins in that situation. So it's to actually have the strength to not do that, to have the strength to let people feel all the feels, to suffer, to not have to jump in right away and feel like you have to fix it or mend it. I just see like the nurse right away coming to give the pain reliever to the person. Sometimes that person actually has to feel the pain or intensity in order for a move or a shift or an integration of something to happen for them. So you don't want to take that away from them. Now, that's not to say that you can't help others in different ways, right? Like you being so highly sensitive and intuitive, you can hold the field. But again, it's sovereign to sovereign. So that is that strength that I'm getting, that mountain energy of like unmovable, unfuckwithable energy. But again, you are not succumbing to doing the emotional labor or like the spiritual work that others are meant to do for themselves. Okay. That was a message for me too, because I'm a Cancer sun. All right. Let's look at Leo, my Leo suns, rising signs. Leo, we got Green Man synergy. Green Man synergy. So let me tune into this for you and what this is meaning for you. Oh, this creative life force energy that is flowing through you. It just feels like very green. So speaking of the green energy, I'm getting green in the sense of like what you have been tending, what you have planted, seeded before is now growing. And there is this feeling of this not quite harvest energy, but more of this like creative unfolding of the lushness and the beauty and the you know what? Hilden von Bingen, the Christian mystic, touched on this. It's the vernal green life forces and the power of the yoni. It's this portal. It's this creative lushness of everything that you have tended to before, seeded before, planted before. It feels like it's coming to fruition for you. And I feel so much creative energy around you. There is a lot of this could play into your visibility, like people seeing you or seeing your work, seeing your contributions. Also this synergy, like with this Green Man synergy piece, this synergy of your work in relation with others. When I tune into this, it feels like that creative life force energy is coming through to merge and collaborate and work with other energies around you, whether that's people, opportunities, events, situations. There's something about like, it feels very collaborative, but it's incredibly creative. It feels like that Eros life force energy that is coming through the energies that Mother Earth and Gaia have available, like they're moving through you. Yeah, and I'm just seeing like so much to be pollinated, which is interesting because we're, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, we're moving into a winter time, but this feels very much like really big spring energy moving into summertime. So I feel like seasonally, there's something that is awakening in relation to a particular area of your life where you potentially feel like a lot of your creative life force energy has been going to, and now it feels like it's awakening and it's ready to be witnessed and received and to play with other energies. So again, maybe projects, maybe your own visibility, creativity, creative work, could be performance. But yeah, there's something about like being seen and visibility here that is really like a green light for you as well. Virgo rising and or sun. Let's see what we got for you. Woo! This one flew out. Ooh. DNA karma. Look at that, baby. So let's tune in. I feel there definitely has been a story playing out, especially with the nodes and the South Node currently in Virgo, that is like so much release has been happening for you. And it has a lot to do with past life experiences. So I'm feeling like even memories are coming through for you that maybe are even cellular. They may not be fully conscious, but there's like a remembering process of experiences from the past, of traumas from the past that you are currently alchemizing. And this year in particular, it feels like this is the work. Like, I bet your life looks drastically different now than it did last year. And I actually feel like that's going to continue forth into 2026. This is like, speaking of, the snake and the DNA, I mean, you are literally rewriting your story. And some of it feels like it's your own will and your own doing, and you've set this up for yourself, this experience. And honestly, some of it feels like it's out of your control. And that's where that sort of more karmic piece, fated piece feels like it's fitting in. And so the challenge here, the invitation is to surrender to that ride. Like, there is a level of showing up and matching your will with divine will. But there's also the wheel of fortune and fate and the wheel of life that is spinning in this particular moment, in this past year and this upcoming year, that you're like, how can you get yourself into the center of that wheel where you're at the eye of the storm, rather than unconsciously participating on the outside of the spokes of that wheel where you feel like you're on a freaking ride, right? How can you attune yourself to that center point where you not only have a vantage point of like what the heck is going on, but you're grounded, you're centered, and you're more rooted in who you are throughout the different shifts and changes and shedding and all of that is happening for you. Big one for you. Okay. Next, we have Libra. Libra, rising and or sun. Meadow, vulnerability. Okay. So here's this card. Let's tune in. Oh, I'm feeling, Libra, yes, you have been hurt in the past. And that desire to have that desire, innate desire that is within your own design, to cultivate that harmony, to cultivate a beautiful union with those that you commune with, that you come into relationship with. I feel the burns from the past. And so this like apprehension to fully allow yourself to be seen, to be witnessed, to also maybe get back into a deep relationship again. Like, because it's interesting, I feel both a desire to, and this is not necessarily just pertaining to intimate romantic relationships. This could feel like you've been burned in familial relationships, in friendships, in business partnerships, in community, in business opportunities, in work, like in projects, and whatever it is, like your career. There's something about deeply wanting communion and connection with something that feels like is your soulmate in the sense that it is meant for you, whether it's a person or a situation or a being. And yet, maybe on an unconscious level, not fully allowing yourself to receive that and be received, to be fully seen and to fully see the truth, honestly. And so this vulnerability piece, there's a softness with this that, again, it feels like this is innate for you. Like this is natural for you. There's like this beauty and softness that you inherently have, but I feel like maybe when you have been in that place or have come from that place, that it didn't serve you. But I feel like that was also attached to other things. For example, maybe some people-pleasing tendencies or overgiving or indecision, not really fully anchoring into your knowing and who you are. And so this feels like it's reminding you to come back home to that softness and to trust it. Because now you've learned so much, you've grown so much. There's a certain level of maturity that you have gleaned, that you have received through your life experiences that can allow you to be vulnerable again, to be soft again, and trust it. And to do so in a way that is, with a deeper sense of knowing who you are and with appropriate boundaries. Like you're going to do it different this time. So trust yourself in that. Next up, we have Scorpio sun and or rising. Oh, Desert Vision Quest. Okay, so let's tune into this one for you. This one makes sense to me as we are in Scorpio season, and Scorpio, it's not a surprise that you want to go deep, right? Like you want to go to the deepest levels of your being and of this reality. The possibilities for you are ripe in terms of the depth that you can dive as it relates to knowing yourself, knowing the state of this reality, to explore. This feels very much like diving deep into the unconscious and subconscious aspects of your own being and getting to the truth. And it feels like Mars in Sagittarius here with that Mercury and Mars ruling your sign, it does feel like there's an element here of like, okay, you are ready to seek the deepest truths within yourself. And to also, while I feel for some of you, you want this to happen with somebody, like I feel like there's that merging energy that I was talking about earlier with this lunation. But ultimately, this is a solo journey. This has to be, because to know thyself is to know only thyself. Like you have to eliminate anything that is not you. Strip away any story, any belief, anything that you have consumed or were consumed by that is not ultimately you or resonant with your truth. Now is the time to strip that away. And that's what I feel like this desert energy is. It's like this stripping bare, this bareness. And through that, getting to the core of who you are and why you are here. And so it feels like this is a really beautiful time to implement any practices if you want to go on a vision quest. But I am getting like this psychonaut, like vision questing can really just be in your own backyard. It could be in your own home, but it does require you to put a pause on the consumption of anything. So even in terms of media or podcasts or reading books or listening to other people's opinions or seeking of advice, it really feels like create some space for you to do that deep journey within yourself, because there's some deep, profound answers there available to you that are ripe for the taking. Sagittarius, rising and or sun. Wind activation. Here we go with that. Okay, so let me go ahead and tune in. This makes me laugh because inside of my community, Bloom, which is my community for intuitive healers, I released an Akashic activation. So every new moon, I release a Luna transmission, Akashic Luna transmission, where I tap into the Akashic records and I literally channel a message. And this last time it was connected with the wind. And I'm a Sagittarius rising. So this is funny because it feels like it's very much aligned with that. What I'm getting with this energy, this continuation of that message, as well as this particular lunation, we have Mercury in Sagittarius in our sign. We have Mars in that sign. This feels like very active wind energy. Mercury is that like talking, chatting, movement. And so there is something around even when we see with this image of this person here with the wind coming from the mouth, right? It is spoken. It's this wind. The truth speaking, the wind activation within ourselves. It's listening to the messages that are coming through the winds. It's asking the wind for insights and messages. It's remembering that we are not separate from nature and that we can commune with nature and that it's a dialogue. And so many of the truths that we are seeking are available through our connection. And right now, the elements of air and that wind are speaking to us. They have something to say. So we can open up our ears, our inner and our outer ears, to listen and attune to that. The other thing that I'm seeing is whistling and communicating and playing music. If you play like an instrument, a wind instrument in particular, and speaking with the wind, and that you'll see that the wind actually can converse with you. It's a dialogue back and forth, that you'll whistle or you'll play your instrument and the wind will respond. So playing around in that way. And now I'm being shown the winds inside of our bodies that similarly to another reading that I had earlier, there's this like chamber within ourselves, like this sound chamber that we can attune to, because those truths that are outside of ourselves are mirrored and reflected and echoed within our own being and the air quality that is within us. So attuning to that as well, taking some time to do so. I'm asking if there's anything specifically with those messages that wants to be said right now. I'm hearing the fire that you are here to bring forth is ready to be spread. So what that fire, I was being shown a fire heart, where your heart is, that the truth seeking, your faith, that like being a speaker also for humanity. It's interesting because in traditional astrology, Mercury is seen to be in detriment in Sagittarius. However, I love Mercury in Sagittarius. I feel like Mercury in Sagittarius is the most truthful and honest Mercury. And while Mercury in Sag people, and my son is one of them, they like to story tell it like it goes around and around in a circle. Eventually they get to the point. So if you're a Mercury and Sag, I love you with all of my heart. But like there can be that like, okay, let's get to the point here. But you always do. And it's always woven with truth. And like you are innately connected with that truth within yourself. So, but there's something about that fire that is within you is ready to be spread. So whatever that fire is, don't be afraid to get it started and to spread that. Capricorn, rising sun. Let's see what is coming through for you. Woo! This one flew out. Winter solstice reflection. Well, that feels very appropriate as we are starting to enter the colder months in the Northern Hemisphere. And of course, winter solstice being connected with your sign. Let's go ahead and tune in. Stillness. This is a time of stillness for you. This is a time of, you have so much wisdom when I'm tapping into your energy. It's like, it's interesting because I see you kind of like this mountain that came through earlier for another sign, but they're showing me you as a mountain, that you have this ability in mountain energy. It makes sense, mountain goat, but you have this ability and energy to just know. You were born knowing, okay? You were like the born adult, and you're witnessing. Through your stillness, you are witnessing what is happening in the world collectively, what is happening around you in your family systems, in your community, what is happening in your partnerships, in your relationships, what is happening in general with other people. Like you're sitting at a Parisian cafe just people watching. But it's from this vantage point of this accumulated wisdom of lifetimes. And it's not about doing anything with it just yet. It's holding it. Like you're holding, and you're simultaneously, it's being reflected within you. So you have this reflection period within yourself, but it's also so that others can look to you for reflection. I see you as a guide, a counselor, a consultant, therapist. Like maybe you're the one that people go to for the advice. Like they know, even if you're not in that role formally, like in your career, you're one of those people that people go to, that like, you know, the guide, the guru, that is like you climb the mountain to go seek their advice. Like that is you. And so there's something about holding still in that position, in that place, that it's not so much about doing for you. I feel there's a magnetism that also comes with holding that position in that place. It's not about doing, even though like you're a very good doer. It's not so much about doing this time, at least with this lunation. So, and that, yeah, again, like you're whether you're a reflector or not, like in human design speak, you have this ability to reflect for others, and that others will come to you to seek that reflection. Aquarius rising and or sun. This one is for you. Woohoo. This one just popped out. Childhood, innocence. Okay, so there's the card. Let me go ahead and tune in. I'm feeling like a lot of themes that are coming up in this time for you that can be experienced as struggles or challenges or obstacles are somehow connected, rooted, or pointing back to experiences from childhood. And so there's something about revisiting certain points in childhood. So for example, if you experience something in your life that currently is feeling like, why is this happening? Or this is a pattern, or like an obstacle you just can't get past, or you're like in a loop. I encourage you to go back and track using the energy, not like with your mind trying to think it out of what it could be. Tune into the essence of the energy of what you are feeling, and then go back to your childhood. When did you experience that same kind of energy, that essence? When did you feel like that was activated? Was there a particular memory that just pops up? You can also ask your inner child, like if you go into meditative state and journey into the heart and ask your inner child, give me information about this. Like, what is it that is connected or pointing back to this point in time in my life? And what feels like what wants to be cultivated here is remembering that who you were before you felt that like stop or pause or don't do that, or that like, nope, not allowed kind of energy. Like, because it feels like you're coming up against something and it's just like not quite moving the way that you want. And so I'm feeling that reflection of this energy in your childhood, tapping into like, who were you just before that? Because it felt like that particular experience maybe dampened something or created like a pattern of thought or belief that is now playing out and wants to be worked with in this time. There's also something here around storytelling, like the power of storytelling for you, like maybe going back to stories that you loved as a child, maybe movies or books, or a story that you were told or that you were really attracted to. Like there's an answer there available to you through storytelling. And then like now going back as an adult and revisiting that feels like there's some integration and healing that can happen for you. So that's an interesting one. I would love to hear what comes through if that resonates for any of you. Okay, our final sign, Pisces. Let's tune in. Pisces rising and or sun. Whew. Hold on. We got quite a few. I got jumbled up. Okay. Oh, ancestors. Ancestors and generations. Well, we are in that liminal space, or coming out from that liminal space, right, of Samhain and Dia de los Muertos and Halloween that we experienced over the weekend and at the end of last week. We are still in that. I led an ancestral healing workshop inside of our Bloom community called Between the Veils. That was really beautiful. So if you feel called to work with the ancestors for generational healing, I invite you to step inside of our community, because you'll have access to the replay and there's a companion workbook and all of that. So doing some ancestral alchemy. But let me tune in more specifically for you of like what this could be connected to. Woo! Pisces. Okay, makes so much sense with Neptune and Saturn in those final degrees of Pisces, and also the North Node here in Pisces, very active for you. Big vibes in the sense of you're doing some deep healing work over the past year and will continue into 2026. And this is not just healing on this level. You are already doing the ancestral healing work, all the work that you have been doing. It's generational work. This is intergenerational trauma, patterns, beliefs that you are alchemizing, working through. So much of what you have gleaned from your experiences over the past years is informing this process. So it's literally just by living, just by being you, your Piscean self, and everything that you are doing, thinking, feeling is part of this healing process. Now, of course, you could bring more intentionality and focus with that with particular practices, as I had mentioned, like inside of our community and the ancestral alchemy work that you could do with that. There's many other ways of working. I'm getting dream work for you in particular in dream time, but it requires intention, right? So setting a very specific focus and intention and speaking to your unconscious and subconscious, as well as your well ancestors and ancestral guides and any other trusted guides that you work with, to help support you in doing this ancestry work and generational healing work through your dreams and dream time, because I feel like that's so available for you right now and continuing into 2026. So that is the work that you are doing both in your waking life and your dream life. And I feel like remembering that those are not separate, that they're actually not two separate lives. They're all one, right? And our dream life is just as real as our waking life, which is also a dream that we are all dreaming together. And you know that more than anybody else, Pisces. So I hope that this resonates for you. Let me know. That finishes our readings for all signs. Right now, I am offering a limited number of clarity channeling sessions. These are private Akashic experiences for the healer who knows that she's at the threshold. She's ready to receive clear, grounded reflection inside of her own sacred field for her unique soul path. In this session, I open up your Akashic records. We tune into also your natal chart. We listen, we clear the noise, we bring forward clarity, illumination of your path. So you will leave with a direct transmission from your Akashic field, clarity on your intuitive gifts, what they're asking of you, your path, your soul path, and guidance on your next aligned move. I have a limited number of these sessions available. If you're interested, you can click the link in the show notes. And I also have 3 spots open for my one-on-one deep dive high-level Akashic mentorship called Oracle Mastery. This is my private, high-touch, high-frequency mentorship for soul-led healers and women who are ready to walk in spiritual leadership with their gifts, tapping into their inner oracle and medicine, fully resourced, ready to be seen and to bring forth their medicine for the world. This is perfect for those who are in transition. You know you're ready to step into the next level version of your service work and your intuitive work. This is the mentorship for you. I highly recommend you check out the clarity channeling sessions first, because you can actually apply what you paid for those channeling sessions toward the mentorship if you choose to step into the mentorship. But if you know that you want to do the mentorship right away, you can go to wildlyrooted.com/oracle and apply, and the link will be in the show notes as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let me know what you think. Did you enjoy those readings? Would you like me to do more of the readings per sign, more of my Akashic channelings? I would love to know. Please leave a comment below if you're watching over on YouTube. And until next time, I'm sending you lots of love, full moon blessings, and be well.